To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. I bet it wasn't a week ago I was down here telling you that the tomatoes weren't doing very well because of the cold weather. It had gotten pretty cold. One day it was actually down into the 30s. So here it is now. It's going to be 90 degrees today. So Missouri weather, you know, one day it's freezing cold. I thought it was going to snow, and the next day it's 80 degrees, 90 degrees. But that being said, the tomatoes are doing much better. We got a bunch of tomatoes here, and we got a big one over there. Really doing very well, which kind of proves that all the efforts that I made this past winter to get this garden to grow is working. I cleared out all this area behind me from trees so we would get more nighttime sun, evening sun. I've said this many times, but over on this side, we had trees, which we're not going to cut. That's our firewood for the next 20 or 30 years. And then over here we had trees. So you can see that this was all grown up by this. So it was just like that over here. So I cleaned that up, and we're doing much better this year. So this is kind of our experimental garden. Make sure it was going to work. We didn't want to, waste a bunch of money this year on the garden and have it fail again. So next year, we'll have a much bigger garden. My goal is to have all this up here planted in corn, and I'm going to clear all this out. That'll all become firewood. I mean, it's not huge trees, but it'll all become firewood. And then we can have some evening sun on the corn and a big garden. So next year we'll be doing very well in the gardening aspect, as well as with the chickens and laying lots of eggs, and we'll have reproductive chickens at that point. Now, one of the things that is a little difficult is the well is way up here and the garden's way down here. Now, our setup, the way we have the well set up, works good typically for everything we do, except watering the garden. It would be very difficult to run this much hose down here, run the pump off the generator. And Carolyn maintains the garden. This is her project. This is something that she likes to do. It's her hobby. And so I let her do it. But for her to start up the well, she would have to start the generator up, plug it up, and she just doesn't like doing all that. And I'm not saying she can't do it, she just would prefer not to. So what I do is I make sure she always has buckets every day full of water that she can water all this. Now, when you have your plants in these bricks here, the water doesn't stay in them very long, so she comes out every night and waters them, and it really does give her something to do. She really enjoys it. So I have to start the well, fill up the buckets. I do that while I'm also filling the house tank, the 275-gallon IBC tank. I do it all at once. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to clean up this garden a little bit. I've kind of neglected the trimming around the garden. I do that about every other mowing. I don't pull the push mower out every time I mow. So I need to clean this up because last night Carolyn was down here and she was really kind of worried about copperheads. And I don't blame her. I'm terrified of snakes too, so I didn't realize it was this tall back here. Maybe I missed it at a time or something. But anyway, I'm going to come up, I'm going to clean all this up, I'm going to get her water buckets filled up. Now on my lawnmower, I have this device that carries buckets. That way I don't have to carry these buckets all the way down. And it adds additional weight to the back end of the lawnmower, so if I need traction, I can put a bucket of water back there and it holds it down to the ground better. There's probably better ways of doing it, I would imagine. Well, I know there's better ways of doing it. I can live on grid is what I could do. That'd take care of all the problems. I wouldn't even have to have a garden, would I? But part of the freedom of all this is not having to go spend money on everything we go do. The other day I showed you that Carolyn made a roost for the chickens and the little chickens, and somebody suggested that we had to spend money. It was a free thing. She built it from all the scraps around here. And that's what I'm trying to share is you can live your dream very affordably without having to go spend money on everything you do. So, we got buckets around here. I got a lawnmower with a thing that I use to weight down the back of the lawnmower, so why not use it? Instead of having to go and get a pressurized tank for the well and then have to have a light bulb so it doesn't freeze, and it would just be more money, and before you know it, we'd be on grid. So I'm going to get the buckets filled up. I know me saying that doesn't sound very exciting, but I think it is kind of neat. I got a two-way device here. All I do is turn on the RV hose, and I shut off the garden hose, and then I can fill up my IBC tank, and I put a little bit of bleach in this to purify it, just in case there's something wrong with the well water. And if you want to know how to purify water with bleach, go to the FDA's website and you can find information on how much bleach to put in your water. Now, bleach will evaporate from the water. You also can boil it out. Now, we use the Berkey, so the bleach doesn't affect us. The Berkey is a water purification system. So we just use it so no moss or anything will grow in it. And if there's anything in the well that could contaminate, we're covered all our bases. Now you may be asking why I don't use the wagon instead of this bucket holder. The wagon bounces around so much on this terrain that the buckets dump over and spill. Of course, I gotta make 3 trips. I don't have to keep filling the buckets every time I dump them over. So I apologize for the sweaty shirt. I know somebody will complain, they usually do. It's funny, you can jars and they call you wussy. But then you work all day or work hard and you get sweaty and then they say, oh, you need to change your shirt, you're so disgusting. And it's usually the same group of guys, it's always guys. I rarely do get complaints from the females, but it's the guys that just have all kinds of problems with my looks and how I behave. So that's kind of my routine. I mean, usually I do this routine earlier in the morning, but this morning I waited so I could get some good sunlight for the camera. In the morning, it's hard to, I'm all shaded, so like right now I'm in the shade, so it's hard to see me. So that's kind of my routine. The only thing you didn't get to see me do was bring the chickens out. The little baby chickens sleep inside the camper here. And so then in the morning, I carry them out to their run. That's the only thing you missed. I bring the food out. I open up the coop so these chickens just can come straight out into their area. It was funny, this morning, the biggest rooster, he's got a red tag on his leg, chased the smaller rooster. The bigger rooster, we call him Red, because he's got a red tag. He always comes out first, checks everything in, then he goes back in and lets everybody come out. Well, this morning, the guy with the white tag on came out first, Red didn't like that, so he chased him back into the coop, checked everything out, and then told them they all could come back out. Their behavior is very interesting when you watch them. The pecking order is just incredible. I'm sure somebody's going to say, oh, you should carry those buckets and different things. It just makes life easier to have the lawnmower. Last year we worked really hard without it. We pulled that little wagon all over the place. We've stacked all this firewood with that little wagon pulled behind, you pull that wagon around. It sits right there. So this year we got the lawnmower, just as well use it. Same philosophy I had with the truck. I used to baby the truck, and then Carolyn said, why do you baby the truck? If you're not going to use it, get rid of it and get a car. So the same thing with lawnmower, we're going to use it. Starting to get a good collection of pint jars that I found. Walmart sells them pretty cheap. So I've been buying pint jars. I got a few quarts also. So we'll get to start canning here pretty soon. Carolyn wants to buy a bunch of bacon. She finds these 10-pound boxes of bacon, but we don't have the room to put them in the fridge. So she wants to get some of that bacon and can that so we can start having bacon. So I hope I can inspire you to get your chores done early when you're living your dream. Thanks for watching.